I'm a resident of Henrico County, Virginia, and on the morning of Sunday, August 11th, I awoke to a very bizarre sight. It started off like any other Sunday for me. I slept in until 9 a.m. because I didn't have to work that day. I got up, showered, and got dressed, then headed to the kitchen to make some coffee. While I was waiting around for it to brew, I went outside to check what the weather was like for the day. My plans for that day were to mow the grass and do some other yard work, so I was hoping for a nice, pleasant, sunny day. Not another hot and muggy or rainy day like the ones we've been having all month long. 2 weeks ago, when I last cut the grass, it was so humid that sweat trickled down my body like melted ice cream, and my hair and clothes clung to me like a thermal blanket, just locking in the heat. It was the kind of day where being in the shade did nothing to help you avoid the heat. But living in the South, you know that's the type of weather to expect come summertime. But it will try to fool you. Late in the evenings and early in the mornings, it's always a little cool, but then by mid-morning, it's already blazing hot. So anyways, I go out to my front porch to see what the weather is like, and there's an old tube-style TV just sitting on my doorstep. Immediately, I'm pissed off, because I'm thinking that someone dumped their trash on my porch because they were too damn lazy to dispose of it properly. You used to be able to just leave them on the curbside for trash pickup, but nowadays you have to take them to special facilities that recycle electronics. Well, lucky for me, but unlucky for the lazy bastard who did it, I have a Ring doorbell camera. I figure after I mow the lawn, I'll sit down and watch the footage, that way I can report them to the authorities. I'm just about to head back inside to enjoy a nice hot cup of coffee before I get started on my yard work, when my neighbor Tony steps out onto his porch and says hello. "Good morning," I reply. The smile he has on his face quickly fades and turns to a frown. "What is this?" he asks while pointing to something sitting on his porch. I can't see what he's talking about because his walkway and porch are surrounded by bushes, so being the nosy neighbor that I am, I head over there to take a look. When I come around the bushes and begin to make my way up to his house, I can't help but to laugh when I see that sitting there on his porch is an old vintage television that looks not exactly the same, but pretty similar to the one that was left on my doorstep. "You got one too?" I ask with a smirk. His is a 13-inch gray Magnavox with a built-in VCR. The one sitting on my porch is bigger, black, and it's a Sony. He looks at me confused, and as I start to explain what I mean, he tilts his head slightly to the left and stares right past me. He has a bewildered gaze on his face, and his eyes are fixated on something across the street. When I realize he's not paying attention to a word that I'm saying, I turn around to see what it is that has him so captivated. My eyes scan each house up and down the block in astonishment. Sitting on every single one of my neighbors' porches are old vintage tube-style televisions, just like the ones that both Tony and I discovered sitting on our doorsteps this morning. "What in the hell is going on around here?" I say aloud. Then I remember my doorbell camera and tell Tony, "We'll get to the bottom of this right now. I'm going to check my doorbell camera footage." That snaps him out of his daze, and he answers, "Yeah, good idea." He follows me back over to my house. All I can say is that what I see is pretty damn creepy. At 4:32 a.m., I receive a motion alert on my phone. I must have slept right through it. My doorbell was never rung, but my camera caught someone approaching my house carrying the TV. They were wearing a dark-colored jumpsuit, gloves, and hiking boots. But that's not the weird part. The person's face is obscured by a TV on their head. I watch in amazement as they carefully place it down on my porch, and then the person notices my camera and actually has the nerve to turn around and wave at it. Then they just walk away and disappear into the darkness. I look over at Tony. I don't know what to say, and apparently neither does he, because we just sit there staring at each other for a minute. I finally say, "I don't know what just happened, but this whole situation has a kind of Twilight Zone vibe about it." He nods his head in agreement and laughs it off. "Yeah, it really does." Tony heads home to call the police, and I go around to some of my neighbors' homes that I know have cameras to see if theirs caught the same weirdness that mine did. Two of them, the Connors and Mr. Ramsey, both have a Ring doorbell like I do, and theirs caught the culprit dropping off TVs on their porches as well. Another neighbor, the Michelsons, have security cameras on their property, and they too caught the person doing the same thing. Each time, they seem to have noticed the cameras and just didn't care. I hurry back to my house before the police arrive to take the TVs for evidence because I've decided that I'm going to keep the one that was left on my porch. I lug it inside and store it in my bedroom closet under some winter blankets. I'm curious to know why these were left for us. Some of my neighbors seem to think that it's just a harmless prank by some college students that were bored or something, but I'm not so convinced. My suspicions grow when the cops arrive and inform us that a similar incident occurred a year ago in a nearby neighborhood not far from where we live. None of those residents had cameras, so they don't know if it was the same person or not. The cops never found the person involved that time, and although they think that this is just some kind of a joke, just someone giving away free TVs, an officer tells me that if they do find the person, the only thing they can charge them with is illegal dumping. But is it really just someone handing out free TVs? Who really has 60 old televisions just lying around? And even if you do, why not post them on Craigslist or Letgo, or even in the newspaper under the free column? No person in their right mind goes out under the cover of night creeping onto a stranger's porch with a TV on their head. A cop comes to my door and asks if I was one of the people who had a TV left on their porch. I tell him yes, that I am, but that another officer already came by and collected it. He takes my statement, asks to see the footage that my doorbell camera captured, then he thanks me and leaves. After all of the commotion settles down and the police start to leave, I get started on my yard work. Later that evening, when I'm sitting down to eat my dinner, I turn on the 6 o'clock news. The first story of the evening is about the TV man who left residents of Henrico County, Virginia free TVs on their front porches during the middle of the night. The news anchors laugh about it and crack some jokes. When I finish my TV dinner, which is kind of ironic when I think about it, I head to my bedroom to hook up the television that was left for me by the TV man, as they are now calling him. I haul it out of the closet and plug it into the wall. Immediately it cuts on. The previous owner must have left the volume turned up all of the way because static erupts from the tiny speaker and floods my ears. I despise the sound. The vast emptiness of its white noise is deeply disconcerting to me. It's so loud that my ears start to ring, and even when I find the volume button and turn it down, the ringing still remains. Next, I start flicking through the channels. There's nothing but static on each and every one, until the screen suddenly turns completely black. I sit there enthralled, staring at nothing but the black screen. Soon after, the sound of beeping startles me. It sounds like one of those weather alerts that appear at the top of the television screen when a weather watch or warning is in effect. It continues for another 30 seconds or so, then ceases. But it's followed by the ear-deafening static again, and no matter what I do, the volume can't be lowered this time. I mute it again and again, but the button must be broken or something. Finally, I just rip the plug from the outlet, but that does nothing. The television remains on, and the sound of static continues to blast from the speaker. I cover my ears tightly with my hands, trying to soothe the ringing that has invaded my head, but it just keeps getting worse. It feels as though it's stabbing at the insides of my mind, trying to send me a message. And then, the gray fuzzy static screen suddenly disappears, and in its place are now a bunch of different images flashing repeatedly. As I'm watching these images, trying to decipher what each one of them are, one appears that I recognize. The TV man. He's standing in the middle of the screen. His jumpsuit is soaked with a dark-colored substance. Whatever it is, he's covered in it. Other images continue to flash repeatedly on the screen, but his image lingers. He summons for me to move closer. I don't think I should. I have a really bad feeling. But suddenly I'm moving, inching my way closer to the television screen. Something has a hold on me. Whatever it is, it's responsible for pulling me closer. I have no control over my body. The closer I get, the farther away the TV man seems. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, I reach him. He holds out his hand, and I hesitantly take it. Then I disappear into the TV. That's the last thing I recall before waking up to the sound of my alarm going off. I reach over and slap the off button, then glance wearily at the time. 7 a.m. Damn, I feel like I got no sleep. I doze off and wake up again 20 minutes later, mustering up just enough strength to crawl out of bed. I'm dreading going to work today, because I can already tell it's going to be a long one, and I'm going to have a hard time getting through it. I'm in a pissy mood all morning. I'm exhausted and hungry because I didn't have time to eat breakfast after getting up late. I scarfed down a granola bar on the ride to work, but those things never fill me up. And I can still hear the faint sound of ringing in my ears. I try to block it out by staying busy, but it just keeps coming back no matter what I do. By lunchtime, I have a pounding headache and I'm about ready to bash my head into a wall. I clock out, pop a few aspirin, and head down to the cafeteria to order a sandwich. Of course, the line is extra long today, just one more thing to tick me off. When I'm almost to the front of the line, I see a group of my coworkers sitting at a table across the room. They're staring at me. When they catch me watching them, they all turn around and begin to laugh. A minute later, my coworker John approaches me and slides right into the line in front of me. We've never gotten along. He's a huge jerk and he's constantly harassing people. I don't plan on even acknowledging the fact that he cut in line. I'm honestly too tired to care. Until he turns around, places his hand on my shoulder and asks, "Do you have something to say to me?" The ringing in my ears grows louder and I can feel my face flushing with anger. "Yeah, the back of the line is over there, and don't touch me," I scream at him, smacking his hand away. He ignores me and suggests, "Maybe you should go home early. You don't look so good." I can't take any more of his sarcasm. I reach out and grip him by the throat, lifting him an inch into the air. I squeeze tighter and tighter until I'm sure that he can't breathe. The panicked screams of my other coworkers filling the cafeteria bring me back to reality. Now feeling embarrassed, I drop him and rush to the restroom. When I look into the mirror, my reflection startles me. I'm extremely pale, drenched in sweat, and my eyes are bloodshot. I didn't look like this morning. Or did I? Someone would have surely said something earlier if I showed up to work looking like this. I wash my face and head back to my cubicle. A short time after, my boss comes over and tells me to take the rest of the day off. "And if you're not feeling better tomorrow, don't bother coming in," he adds as I collect my briefcase and jacket. I take the next week off of work, hoping to catch up on some sleep. But no matter how early I go to bed, it just seems like I'm not getting enough. Every day I wake up tired and angry at the world. And every night, I see the TV man. When I wake up each morning, my encounters with him are always the last thing that I can remember from the night before. I don't want to remember them. They freak me out. He always pops up out of the shadows, and he's been telling me to do things. Horrible things. When I refuse, he retrieves the knife from the pocket of his jumpsuit and holds it out towards me, threatening me. I'm going back to work tomorrow, so I head to bed early. I enter my room and turn on the TV. Like I said before, it plays nothing but static, but for some reason lately it's actually become quite calming for me to listen to. I sit down on the edge of the bed and just stare, fascinated by the black and white specks, when suddenly the static pauses. All sound in the room disappears. The temperature drops and the room feels as though all of the air has been sucked out of it. I get the feeling that I'm not alone. I try to look around to see, but my eyes are frozen. Something is telling me that I must not look away from the screen. The black and white dots slowly come to life. They come creeping out of the television toward me, organizing themselves into a picture. The picture they form is of the person I've been seeing every night since I turned on this TV. The TV man is standing before me. He raises his right hand and waves just like he did to my camera the night he left the TV on my porch. Just when I start to ask him why he left the TVs, the static sound returns and he disappears right before my eyes. I figure it was just another nightmare and I must have fallen asleep while sitting up because I'm so tired. The first day I return to work is non-eventful. Everyone keeps their distance. I don't blame them. They must think I'm crazy. After work, I head to the grocery store to pick up a few items. I hate grocery shopping, and it doesn't help that when I arrive, the store is crowded and the lines are a mile long. I grab the few things that I need and find the shortest line I can. A young boy who looks about 8 and his mother get into line behind me. When the line moves forward slightly, I move up, and then the little boy pushes his cart up, ramming it right into the back of my ankles. I wait a few seconds, expecting him to apologize, and when he doesn't, I turn around and give him an angry glare, just daring him to do it again. His mother is too busy browsing the magazine rack to notice what's going on. I turn back around and focus on the TV at the front of the store. It's one of those CCTVs that you can see everyone entering and exiting the store on. A moment later, the picture fades away and changes to static. My eyes stay fixated on the screen. Then a message appears. Kill the kid. Ringing fills my ears. First it's a dull ring, then it starts to intensify. The next thing I know, a big burly bald man is slamming me to the ground, and a lighter falls from my hand. The little boy who was standing behind me is now lying on the ground crying, and his mother is screaming so loudly that I almost can't hear the ringing in my ears anymore. What's going on? I ask, confused. Everyone is gathered around, staring at me angrily, like I did something wrong. The cops are on their way, asshole, a man with a manager tag pinned to his shirt shouts at me. Then he escorts me back to his office to wait for the police. I have no idea what is going on, I tell the manager. He just stands there stone-faced, not saying a thing until the police arrive. Then he proceeds to play the store's surveillance video. It shows me getting into line, and then the little boy and his mom getting into line behind me. Next, it shows the boy ramming me with the cart. Then my attention shifts to the store's entrance. That must have been when I saw the CCTV lose its signal. That much I remember. The line continues to move, but I'm frozen in place, focused on the TV screen. Until the metal cart slams against the back of my legs and an annoying little voice whines, "Hey mister, move up." I drop my shopping basket, turn around, and ram the cart as forcefully as I can backwards. It slams into the little boy's neck, knocking him to the ground. The little boy's mother finally shifts her attention from the magazines to her child and begins to scream. The other shoppers turn to see what is going on. As the cashier calls for a manager to come to the front, I grab a barbecue lighter from a rack and tear the package open. I push the button to ignite it and approach the boy holding it out toward his hair. That's when a customer tackles me to the ground and then the manager arrives. I stare at the cops in disbelief. I don't know what to tell them because I don't remember that happening. I haven't been feeling like myself lately, I say. The police tell me that the boy's mother has decided not to press charges, but she thinks you may be mentally ill and suggests that you should get some help, one of them tells me. I rush out of there ashamed and race home. I take some more time off of work. I don't want to be around anyone. I'm too afraid of what I might do to them. I still can't manage to get any sleep. Last night I had the strangest nightmare. I finally started to doze off around 4 a.m. when I see a shadow in the corner of my room. At first I think it's a man looking at me, but when he steps into the light, I realize it's the TV man. He waves at me with his one hand, and in his other he's holding something. He holds it up, waving it back and forth. The closer he gets, I can make out what the object is. It's a knife. He's finally come to kill me. He continues to approach me until he's standing next to the bed. Then he kneels down and holds out the knife, offering it to me. I take it and slide it under my pillow. Then static fills the room and I turn my attention to the TV. There's another message. Is murder a crime when death is imminent? When I turn back toward where the TV man was waiting, he's gone. He continues to visit me for the next 3 nights, sending me messages asking when will I use the tool that he has given me. I've moved it from under my pillow to the kitchen knife block. I've been so tired lately that I can barely function. So one afternoon when I get home from work, I lay down to take a nap, making sure to turn on the TV so that the static can lull me to sleep. TV man visits me again, urging me to help him. He tells me that he needs me to do him a favor, but I don't think I can do it. I'm afraid of what he may do to me, but I tell him no anyway. He starts to get angry when the sound of my doorbell ringing wakes me. My bedroom is dark besides the faint glow radiating from the alarm clock sitting on my bedside table. I glance over at it. The time says 9:28 p.m. I don't even remember falling asleep. I climb out of bed and head through the living room to answer the door. My neighbor Tony is standing on my porch in the darkness. I flick on the outside light, unlock and open my screen door and greet him. Hey man, is everything all right? I'm not sure what could possibly have him coming over this late. He's dressed in his pajamas and slippers, and he pulls his robe tightly around his neck and shivers before answering. Yeah, everything is fine. I just need to talk to you. Can't it wait until the morning, I ask? He shakes his head no, so I hold the door open and invite him in. He follows me to the kitchen and we sit down at the table. What's on your mind? I ask as I retrieve a beer from the fridge. I offer Tony one, but he declines. Is everything okay with you? I feel like you haven't been yourself lately, he questions. I don't know what you mean, I respond, shrugging my shoulders. I want to ask, why do you even care? But I don't want to sound rude. He continues, well, I've been hearing some things. I heard you've had some issues at work, and I heard about that incident at the grocery store. I reply asking, oh yeah? Where'd you hear that? Just around town. Everyone knows about it. Everyone's talking about it too, he answers. I also heard you kept that TV that was left on your porch. Are you nuts? He asks me, obviously angry, although I don't understand why. Calm down, it's just a TV, I tell him. You don't know that for sure. What if there is a bomb or something inside? I'm flattered that you care so much about my well-being, I say jokingly. I finish up my beer as he continues his argument on why I'm so crazy to have kept the damn television. The two of us have been friends for 5 years, and he's never aggravated me so much as he is right now. Just the sight of him is making me angrier by the second. I get up to toss my beer can in the recycle bin, and I'm so tired of his babbling on now that I say, Tony, I think it's time for you to leave. He looks at me confused. Did I say something wrong? I shake my head. You just need to go. I'm tired and I'm ready for bed. He gets up and says goodbye, but before heading to the door, he turns around and comes back into the kitchen to add one more thing. You should really think again about keeping that TV. I think you should drop it off at the police department first thing tomorrow morning. That does it. Why did he have to come back in here, I think to myself. My back is still facing him. I look to my left and find what I'm looking for. After retrieving it from the dish rack, I say, You know what, Tony? You're right. He replies, I'm glad you think. He doesn't get the chance to finish his sentence because I turn and charge at him, pounding at his face over and over with my meat tenderizer. Blood and pieces of skin scatter all over me in the kitchen with each blow. He loses consciousness after the first few whacks. I hear his teeth crack and then a couple of them come flying out of his mouth at me. I don't comprehend what's happening until it's too late. By the time I'm done, his face looks like a nice juicy steak that's been tenderized and is ready to be thrown on the grill. I toss the utensil across the kitchen into the sink and it lands with a loud thud. Then I just stand there, admiring my handiwork. You'd think I'd feel remorse about murdering a man that I've been friends with for years, but I feel nothing but numbness. As I stand there staring at his lifeless body lying on the blood-soaked tile, my eyes start to burn as if they are on fire. I ferociously wipe at them, trying to stop the overwhelming sensation. When it finally subsides, I sit down and focus on my next task: what to do with the body. The only thing that comes to mind that almost guarantees me not getting caught is either cutting up the body into pieces or burning it. I opt for cutting up the body. Call me crazy, but it just sounds more fun to me. So I head downstairs to my basement and retrieve my hacksaw. Then I go back upstairs to the kitchen and grab some garbage bags from the pantry. Tomorrow is garbage day, so I have to hurry if I want the evidence to be gone in the morning. I undress him and get started with his legs, feet, and toes first. I make sure to use the knife TV man gave to me to do some of the work. I hope this appeases him. I toss the pieces into one of the bags and then tie it closed. Next, I saw the torso into pieces and tossed those into another bag. Then I saw the arms, hands, and fingers into pieces and tossed them into a third bag. Just as I'm about to tie that one closed, I realize I should probably keep the fingers, toes, and teeth and dispose of them somewhere else. That way the police will have trouble identifying the body if they do happen to find part of it. I open the bag containing his toes and retrieve them, then collect the fingers and set them aside into a separate pile. Last is the head. Luckily he's clean shaven, so I don't have to worry about his hair identifying him. I smash out the rest of his teeth first and place them to the side with his fingers and toes. Then I proceed to saw his face into pieces and place that into one last trash bag. I turn off my Ring doorbell camera and make a mental note to delete the footage of Tony coming over. I grab the garbage bags and creep to the curb. That's when I notice that Tony has already put out his trash. He must have done it before coming to my house. I lift one bag into his trash can. I haul another to one of my neighbors' houses that I know don't have a camera and hurl it into their trash can. I planned on tossing one of the bags into my trash, but mine is too full. So I drag the last two across the street and throw them into some half-empty trash cans sitting at the curb. I rush back to my place and clean up the mess that Tony left in my kitchen. I'll dispose of his clothes along with his fingers, toes, and teeth tomorrow on my way to work. I sneak out to my car and stash them in the trunk. Then I take a shower and get back into bed. The TV is on in my bedroom, which throws me for a loop because I could have sworn that when I woke up it was turned off. The screen is covered with the static image again. I don't even bother to get back up and turn it off. I cram my face into my pillow and start to doze off when the ringing floods my ears again. I lift my head and stare around the room, puzzled, because the television volume is on mute. The ringing echoes around in my head until I just can't take it anymore. I reach for the remote and snatch it from the edge of the bed. As I point it at the TV, the room starts to spin, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up to the sound of my alarm going off. It's 7 a.m. Monday morning, and time for me to get up for work. I rush to get ready once I remember that I have something else to take care of before I go to work today. After checking to make sure that I haven't forgotten anything, I hurry to my car and see the garbage man coming down the street. The sight of him makes me smile as I speed away. I was so tired last night that I haven't even given any thought to where I will discard of the rest of Tony's remains. While driving across the bridge, I get a feeling that the river flowing below would be the perfect place for him. But I need something that will weigh the trash bags down first. I call my boss and tell him that I'm stuck in traffic so I'll be a little late. Then I head to Lowe's to pick up some bricks. I drive back to the bridge and park beneath it where there is a small park and picnic area. It's starting to get cold now, so the park is empty compared to the hot sunny days when it's always packed full of people. I open my trunk, untie the trash bags, and throw 2 bricks into each bag, then retie them. I toss them into the river one by one, making sure to wait until one sinks before throwing the next in. Afterwards, I head to work, just like every other day. That morning, Tony's wife reports him missing. The police come by my house after I get home from work and question me, but they don't seem to have a clue that I murdered him. Months pass by, and then one day the cops show up at my job and arrest me. They say that a trash bag with some teeth was discovered at the bottom of the river. The teeth belonged to Tony Matthews, but my fingerprints were found all over them. Damn me for not wearing gloves. I tell them all about the TV man and how he told me to do it. He told me that it was okay to hurt people. They think I'm crazy for trying to blame the TV man for my crime. My trial lasts a month, but the jury only deliberates for an hour. Guilty. I'm sentenced to spend the rest of my life in jail, but it's just not fair. The TV man made me do it. Subscribe for new original stories 3 times a week. See you next time on
Nino's Nightmares.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me. Ugh.